All right, welcome back. Once again, we're here at Active Physics, starting the beginning of the year off. If you're watching this video, most likely you're using the old edition, which has to do with home, all right, the chapter entitled Home. So starting off your first activity, Home Activity 1. I'm going to go through how to start off your students. So, as all Active Physics chapters revolve around a challenge, this one has the challenge of designing the universal dwelling. And if we look at our detailed pacing guide, it tells us that introducing the tasks should only take half a class period. And then you jump right into the next lesson, and that should take half a class period. In reality, I find that this part, introducing the challenge, takes much less than half a class, usually only about the start of a class, like 10 minutes. And then you spend the rest of the class doing this lesson. So we're going to go through how that works. Okay, so first of all, if you don't have this old Active Physics pacing guide, again, because if you go to the Weebly, unfortunately, unfortunately for those of us using the old Active Physics text, all the stuff on the BPS Science Weebly is for the new Active Physics text, the new 3rd edition. So if you're teaching out the older edition, you're going to have to go to the Weebly and get the email and contact either Pam, Holly, or contact myself, and we will send you the older pacing guide that you could use, and the older detailed pacing guide, which is extremely helpful. It gives a little notes as I went over in the overview video. So just a little reminder, you're going to need the older pacing guide to go through this. All right, so let's jump in here. We got design challenge, universal dwelling. So really just reading through this and then going over the criteria should only take about the first 10 minutes of class. And I like to take this criteria and put it into a rubric that students could use and also cut and paste into the learning log. We'll talk about the learning log in a bit. But first, if you're unfamiliar with rubrics or just want kind of an easier way to go about making them, there are some great online resources here to help you form a rubric. All right, something students can refer to about how they're graded, something you can refer to about the quality of students' work and how you will grade it. So Rubystar, or if you don't like what they offer, you could go to this site down here, and they have several other online rubric makers. These are all free, by the way, and free is good. So you could make rubrics very quick and easily using these resources, and students could use those to refer to the challenge. All right, so I'd like to put this in a rubric, hand it out, and then we move on. So our first lesson, designing the universal dwelling here, activity 1, has them take a look at several different homes and how are they alike, how are they different. I like to supplement this a little bit myself by just having a PowerPoint where, a little show where I show many other examples of homes. Just gives students a little bit of a broader perspective. It's kind of fun, gets a discussion going. All right. And so take a few minutes, go through that, and then they're asked to brainstorm around these questions, the functions of a home, what is essential to any home. This term for your ELLs, your English language learners, some of them may not be familiar with this term, especially if you have some level 1s, 2s, maybe even some level 3s that aren't familiar with this term. So this is something you want to be aware of and something that you want to discuss before you have them jump into answering these questions in their learning log. Okay, so I have them individually answer these questions in their learning log, taking about 5 minutes to do that, which brings me up to the next point, the learning log. What I find very effective, and other colleagues have used successfully as well, is using a composition notebook for the learning log. A couple reasons why this works good. They're small, so they fit in the students' bags very easily. They're very cheap, so students could afford them. And they're easy to take home and grade, okay, because they're so small. And students can get handouts, and instead of putting them in the rings in the binder, which tend to tear, they could staple and paste handouts into these books, and that works pretty good. All right, so learning log, I recommend using these composition notebooks. But however you do it, I have students work in that learning log individually at first, and then for the next questions, where they really need to really pick out what's essential. Again, that word essential, they need to know. What I like to do is have students group up for that. All right. And one easy way to make groups, if you go to this site, Super Teacher Tools, has a lot of good free resources you could use. But I'm going to talk about the Group Maker for now. And what that does is if you go to the site, you can actually have a random group made so students can't complain that you're not being fair or that you're some part of a conspiracy. You know, it just automatically creates a group for you randomly. So you would ahead of time insert your class list in here. And then in an instant, it just makes a group. Of course, you need online access for this, but it is a pretty handy tool for you to make random groups. So I'd like to put students in some random groups and have them for the next set of questions actually work in those groups. And I like to actually have them do what I call a gallery walk at the end. So I give them some large paper to write down their essential qualities of their universal dwelling. And then after they have a few minutes get those down, I have them posted up, and then I have each group rotate around and look at other groups' work. This is called a gallery walk. And they can use sticky notes to write comments on it, or you can even give them markers to check off or things they think are essential in other groups, something to that extent. All right, so that's how I like to break down this part. And then as a class, we'll discuss these questions at the end. Now, get into reflecting and then the physics to go. What I like to do for the first question here, all right, I like to break this down as a think, pair, share question. Okay, so what I have students do is read this, and if you're not familiar with the think, pair, share, if you're just starting out here, I give them 2 minutes to individually think and write in their log the answer. And then when time's up, I say, all right, 2 minutes, share with your neighbor, and they compare and discuss. And then I say time's up, and then another 1 or 2 minutes, I have them actually share out with the class. I'll have a few groups share out with the class, and we'll discuss as a class. So that's something I like to do, starting off with these first questions, you know, thinking about what features a home needs dependent upon weather. This is going to become important in this unit because we're going to be talking about heat transfer. So some things to talk about there. Now, physics to go. This is typically stuff you can assign for homework, hence physics to go. But I actually do most of these in class, as you could see. And number 3, what is a square foot? Students may not be familiar with that, so I like to do this in class, holding up a ruler or 2 rulers and show them 1 foot by 1 foot is a square foot. And I'll actually have them do this activity, taking the paper and making a square foot out of it. They may need to tape 2 papers together, like I said. And then I'll have them with their group again actually measure and actually predict, estimate how many square feet are in the classroom, and then actually measure it. Okay, and then groups can compare their answers with one another. It's kind of an interesting activity. So I have them do this in class with their group. And then finally, towards the end, after we kind of see the results and discuss how accurate their estimates were versus actually measuring, I actually have end of the class, they give them index cards where they can copy this information down on an index card, and their homework is to have this filled out. So they actually find in the area of their home. Okay, so the very end of class, they're going to be getting an index card and getting this information, copying this down. If there's time. Often, believe it or not, I find this lesson goes even right to the end, so I actually have some of this printed out that I could just hand out to students on little sheets of paper just to save some time. Okay, so believe it or not, as far as time frame, this will take you about 50 minutes. That's if everything goes perfectly smoothly. There's no questions. There's no students really needing help or struggling with finding area. Okay, there is that area formula it introduces, length times width. Maybe some students haven't done that in a long time. So believe it or not, this will take you the full period to go through the intro and activity 1. And just a heads up as far as what materials. Now the plus mean, these are optional. But like I said, I like to have the rubric, a little PowerPoint of homes around the world to add to that part, the intro. Stickies are